channel. I am Gregoria, aka G, and here on this channel we talk about all things spirituality, mysticism, laws of the universe, and everything in between. I'm here to deliver another really cool topic, something I've been wanting to share with you for a while, but it just came up recently when I was brainstorming ideas for these videos and I thought it would be perfect. Now today was just one of those days where so many things were preventing me from recording this video, but I was so passionate to deliver this video, so I am here showing up regardless, and I cannot wait to talk to you about this topic. So today we're talking about infinite possibilities, aka infinite timelines. And what does that even mean? Because I hear people throw around the term infinite possibilities often, but I don't actually know whether our brains process what that actually means. And it's often used in reference to the law of attraction, as in anything is possible for you, so you can attract from the infinite possibilities. So if you focus your attention and your intention on one specific timeline, you can bring it into your current physical reality and experience, okay? And although that's true, I want to basically show you the depth of the concept of infinite possibilities and how it relates to dimensions, densities, and timelines. Okay, so what is an infinite possibility? Basically, it says that every single possible version of you exists. It exists whether it be a parallel universe, whether it be an alternative dimension, whether it be just a vibratory difference, okay? It doesn't really matter that much about the specific science behind it, but every single possibility and version of you exists out there in the ether, okay? Now, if that is true, that means the version of you as the queen exists, the version of you already married with children exists, the version of you homeless exists, the version of you who has already transitioned from this timeline exists, the version of you who's a famous piano player exists, the version of you who's an artist exists, right? Anything that you could possibly conceive is a reality. That also, I've really gone into the depths of it sometimes, and I thought, well, then does that mean that I have been partnered with every single person on the planet? Because if infinite possibilities exist, it means that I have coupled with every single person on the planet, right? Well, that's a possibility. Now, although there are infinite possibilities, the probability increases based on your own probability field. What I mean by that, generally speaking, all of us have a very similar pattern, all right? How we move through life. We use the same roads, we work at the same job for years, we work from home, we have the same group of friends, we travel to the same locations, we walk on the same streets when we're going for a walk. We have basically a finite probability field. So what happens is, although we exist in a quantum world with infinite possibilities, we are tapped into the probability of a finite number because we keep repeating the same patterns over and over again. So you can already assume through quantum probability what the chances are of you experiencing a certain timeline. So that's also why a lot of business coaches will tell you if you keep doing the same things, you're going to get the same results, right? Because unless you do something completely different outside of your own probability field, you are going to receive the same results that are predictable. Okay, results that we can actually quantify and calculate. Okay, so although there are infinite possibilities, you are walking toward a finite number of them because of your focus, your patterns, your programming, etc., right? If I grew up as a Christian and I go to church every Sunday, therefore I have limited myself in a particular box. And again, this isn't about right or wrong. This is about patterns. This is about quantifying probability of infinite possibilities, okay? So the chances of you actually becoming the Queen of England is very unlikely, especially if you've never stepped foot in England, you've never met a royal, etc., 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 right? So the probability of that is much smaller than, let's use me as an example, me succeeding at mindset coaching, right? I'm much more likely to do that than I am to become the Queen of England because of my patterns, because of my programming, because of my focus. Now, I do want to mention one thing. Density is different to timeline, universes, and dimensions, okay? So we often talk about this as a three-dimensional plane. Things are 3D. That is not the same as third density, fourth density, and so on. If you're curious about the differences, please start reading The Raw Material, The Law of One of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. It's actually a series of 5 books. It's channeled. It was written in the 1980s, channeled by an ancient alien civilization known as Ra, the messengers of God. The humble messages of God, I should say. That's how they like to refer to themselves. Okay, so read that, and that talks about densities. But in this case, I'm referring to timelines, universes, aka parallel universes, and dimensions. They do not run linearly, the way we understand linear time in the 3D, all right? We believe in past, present, future, and it runs in a straight line. But that's not how dimensions work. It's more like a circle, right? And imagine like the dial on your oven, okay, which you can turn from side to side, right? It's basically how time works if I were to explain it in a way that the human consciousness can understand, because it's not exactly like that, but it's hard to articulate in a way that you can receive, except for the dial metaphor. And the best example for how time works is actually the movie Arrival. If you have not seen Arrival, you have to watch it. I make all my friends watch it. I love the movie. It is a little bit slow, but the message at the end is super powerful. And it's basically the way time, which is a created construct, actually works when we think of the universe. The other thing I want to mention is that we can and do exist in all dimensions at all times. A conscious awareness of the experience is not necessary. So just because we think we're here now doesn't mean that we are not simultaneously in all dimensions. And what I mean by that is I mean first dimension, second dimension, third dimension, fourth dimension, and so on and so on and so on. We exist in everything. We are not confined to one particular place in time and space. And I'll explain this more a little bit later so you can understand as to why this is possible. Okay, so Bert Goldman is famous for his technique called quantum jumping, aka quantum leaping. They're used interchangeably, where he connects with the parallel universe of himself. Now, he has shared this teaching for years and years and years. I actually haven't heard about him much at all in the last 7 years, so I'm not actually sure if he's living or not. I've tried to investigate and I just can't find anything, but a lot of his old teachings are available online, especially on YouTube, and they are rich in information, okay? And I've done a few quantum jumps / quantum leaps in my time. I also offer them on my website as well because I know how powerful they are. So basically, to summarize, what he decided to do with this experiment is he didn't know how to play the piano. So he's like, well, if infinite possibilities of me exist, why couldn't I connect through visualization with the version of me who's already a professional piano player? So he did the meditations, he got himself into that deep meditative state, and he visualized himself connecting, coming face to face with the version of him who's already a famous piano player. And then that version of him whispered some cues, all right, in what he could bring back into this dimensional reality and basically become a famous piano player. He took on that advice, and I can't recall the exact details, but I remember one was as simple as step on stones or something like that. So he was one day he didn't really understand what that meant when he came back to his conscious awareness, but he decided one day he was at the beach and all of a sudden there were all these stones and he was told to step on the stones, you know, like he recalled the memory of the visualization and he did that, and that led to something else, which led to something else, which led to something else. I'm pretty sure in that scenario it was about becoming an artist. He started becoming an artist, actually sold his art worldwide and got a name for himself as an artist because he connected with the version of himself that was already an artist. Super powerful. And a lot of his subjects or people who took on his practices and teachings actually were able to heal themselves from illnesses and ailments because they connected to the version of themselves who was healthy and well. Now, I'm not saying this is a cure-all, okay? Please do your own research and due diligence. However, I'm saying that if infinite possibilities exist out there in the ether, there's no reason why I cannot connect to one of the timelines and become her in the present moment. So what that means is that your current projected timeline can and is likely to continue shifting and evolving. Now, let me explain that to you, right? Right now, imagine my hand moving like this. It looks like one straight movement, right? Like one flawless movement. Now, who's to say that I haven't just shifted in parallel universes? Because if I were to break it down, it would look like snapshots, individual snapshots of my hand moving. Okay, now who's to say that I haven't just shifted through 50 different timelines with me moving my hand like this. I've just changed my pattern. I wouldn't normally do something like that. Have I just shifted into a new timeline? Now, again, we are not consciously aware of it, but through our focus and intention, we can intend to move toward a particular timeline. A really good example right now, which is something that a lot of people don't want to hear, is when a lot of the protests were happening and people kept chanting, "I can't breathe," okay? And I put a few warnings online saying it would be more advisable to chant, "I can breathe," to show the power in our voice, in our breath, okay? Because when millions of people collectively intend for something unintentionally, obviously the intention wasn't to impose the concept of not breathing, but what ended up happening now all over the world, there are legal mandates which are making us wear masks on our face, which stop us from breathing essentially. Definitely reduce the capacity of oxygen to flow through our bodies. And the carbon dioxide that's being released within our mask that we're then breathing in again, that can be incredibly toxic. Whether you believe that or not, it doesn't matter, okay? This isn't about a debate on masks, but what I'm saying is as a collective, I'm not saying it's our fault, but when a collective group of people intend for a particular timeline, the probability of that timeline manifesting in some way in this physical reality is heightened, okay? And you can do the same in your own experiences. Okay, now let's assume that all of this is true. Cool, all of this is true. How do we align with a particular timeline? How do we align with one of the infinite possibilities in this time-space reality? What do I do? Well, I'm gonna give you 3 ways to connect with one of your infinite possibilities to make them a higher probability. All 3 methods work on the concept of collapsing time-space from the quantum field, okay? Because when we do that from the quantum field, then our time-space reality, as we perceive it as linear in this physical reality, collapses, okay? Because we're working from not the 3-dimensional plane, we're working from the ether. So number 1 is meditation. Specifically, Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditation. He works a lot in the quantum field, and what he basically does is one of my favorite concepts ever. He goes from being somebody, as in I, Gregoria, to being nobody, as in connecting to the void, which is God, which is source, which is infinite intelligence, to then becoming everybody. Because once we are nothing, we then remember that we are everything and everyone at all times, okay? And from that place, if I'm everything, then I'm already the infinite possibility. So why can't I match up with one specific possibility and timeline in this time-space reality? Of course I can, because I've already remembered that I am everything and everyone at all times, and I am a hologram, so therefore I can tune into a different reality, okay? So meditation is incredibly powerful. I really do recommend that you purchase his meditations if you haven't already. Super powerful. When I first started doing his meditations, I did them religiously. I'm talking every single day, an hour and 15 minutes. I would do his meditations for at least 60 days. I did them. Changed my life. Super powerful. I ended up manifesting so many different experiences from that. Obviously, since then, I've slacked off and I'm not a 1 hour and 15 minute kind of meditation woman, but I really do want to start introducing the practice again because I know how powerful they are. Even not to manifest or shift timelines, but even just to center yourself and connect to infinite intelligence. It's really powerful. Number 2 is quantum leaping / quantum jumping. What it essentially is a meditative visualization, right? So you go into deep meditation. You can follow Bert Goldman on YouTube and do some of his guided practices where he goes through quantum leaping. Alternatively, you can go to my website and purchase some of my quantum jumping meditations as well, which basically you come face to face with the version, your ideal self, okay? And when I talk ideal self, that's coming from the limited human consciousness right here and right now, because you know the version of you that exists on another plane thinks of a different ideal version of themselves, all right? But the version of you, of yourself that you feel is ideal for you here and now, you come face to face with them and they either give you clues, alternatively you merge with them. I know Aaron Dowdy also has one where you basically become them, okay? So they become your physical vessel and therefore they are you, and they tend to clean things up in this time space, right? Because all the mess mess that you made, which isn't a mess. I do believe in the divinity of everything, all times, everywhere, within everyone. But they basically clean up the mess so you can align with your ideal self here on this plane. And number 3 is amplified emotions. This is so underutilized, right? A lot of people think that you connect through your mind's eye. You connect by tapping in, by meditating, by going to this place in your mind. And although that is true to remember who you are and connect to source, again, I'll talk about this in a minute, we really start to expand and feel from our heart space. And it wasn't until a few years ago which I really started connecting to my heart space. I've always considered myself, you know, an intelligent woman. I always studied a lot. I always loved researching and learning, and I was really tapped into my intuition. But when I turned on my heart space and really started working on the emotions attached to the thoughts, that's when everything really started to shift for me. Because imagine everything as a set of vibrations. And I've talked about this in the past. Now, every single thing has a different, basically, depth of vibration, okay? You can have big, long ones. You can have fast little ones, you can have far apart, all right, different vibrations. Now, the probability of something coming into your experience can be amplified by the emotion attached to it, which basically condenses the vibratory offering, bringing it closer to proximity to your experience. Because everything in essence is just vibration. We condense the frequency through amplified emotions, especially ones that offer no resistance, right? If I'm really joyous and excited, but then all of a sudden I get this rush of, oh, I'm doubting myself, it can't happen, I'm scared, then I've also amplified that emotion. So it's got to be with no resistance. So the best way to do this is if there's a topic or an area in your life which you want to manifest or basically change timelines, and it starts to bring you some discomfort, don't think about it. Do something that already brings you joy and happiness and elation that you offer no resistance. When I go cook in the kitchen, I am on top of the world. You could not burst my bubble. I am so happy. I'm so filled with joy. That's a really great time for me to amplify my emotions because I'm basically attracting more of those experiences into my life. So if we can, through our visualization practice, let's merge the 3. We do this deep meditation. We then do a quantum jump / quantum leap. And then through that visualization, we feel the feelings of experiencing it now. We feel the feelings of experiencing us in that particular timeline. How does that feel? We amplify those emotions. We feel so much joy and gratitude within our bodies. Imagine how much we are collapsing time and space in the quantum field, essentially condensing linear time and bringing it closer to our realization here on this plane. We are shifting timelines. Whoa, super powerful. Let me continue. Okay, so I've started watching Gaia, and there's one particular doco that I've been watching called Initiation. Amazing. If you have not watched it, you have to watch it. He talks about his experience, basically past life regressions, which he's had, which came to him at a very young age, where he tapped in and remembered 3 specific past lives. And one of them was when he was on another planet. And the way he explained God is the way I've always believed it, but the way he articulated it was phenomenal. So I'm going to simplify it for you here and now. You haven't been pulled from God, all right? Because we are of God, and to God we shall return. And here is just an expression of that God. We haven't been pulled from God to exist as one particle in one specific time space. That makes no sense. If I am of infinity, then I am always infinite. Okay, I can't be pulled from infinity and become finite. That is impossible. So to think that I only exist here and now when I am infinity makes no sense, all right? So that essentially proves that I am an infinite being. And of course, there would be infinite possibilities attached to that, even possibilities that I can't conceive from my human limited consciousness. So you have been pulled from God as an individualization of God to consciously experience this perspective of the truth, to help you expand your understanding while simultaneously existing in all things and vibrations everywhere at all times. Okay, and I'm going to explain what God is and how we basically created all of these timelines in a minute. But the different dimensions are just different perspectives of the truth. Think of it like a sphere. Like if I had a marble here right now, okay? You can only see it from where you're looking. So right now when you're looking at my hand, imagine this a marble, you can only see this view. All right, there's a whole world back here that you can't see. All right, so you're looking from this dimension, and this is the perspective of the truth that you see and you try to interpret. So we've based our whole understanding of everything from one limited perspective, okay? As you move through dimensions, you get to see it from different perspectives. So imagine the next dimension is like this, and the next dimension is like this, and the next dimension is like this, and the next dimension is like this, right? You get to see it from different perspectives. Not just from different perspectives, from a broader understanding, because from this dimension you've seen this, you go into the next dimension having seen this and also seeing this. You go into the next dimension having seen this, having seen this, having seen this, right? So you broaden your understanding and your depth of understanding of the one ultimate truth. We are all just living different perspectives of the one consciousness. Consciousness was the original. Consciousness, aka God, aka the mind, aka divine oneness, aka unity, all right? The one thing, the one dot, the one speck, the one consciousness. This is the origin. And unity is often mislabeled as well. People think that unity means that we all think the same and we all want the same peace and we all want to be one. That's not how unity works. Unity isn't about everyone thinking the same about peace here on this plane. Unity is to remember that we are of the one origin, the one consciousness. We are all holograms of that one original spot. Okay, that's what unity, again, law of one, the raw material, your best friend, you're gonna learn so much. How did all of this happen? How did we create infinite timelines and possibilities? Gee, great information, but I wanna know more. Okay, so the original mind, the one absolute truth that was the original source of everything, the consciousness, also known as the I am. Okay, I am. That was the original source, the I am. Asked itself one integral question. Who could I be? Whoa, mind blowing. So the I am, the one consciousness, the one speck of dot energy, whatever you want to call it, God, asked itself, who could I be? And that was the beginning of its expansion into infinite holograms of possibilities of who I am is. Now, it wasn't a direct transition from asking the question to becoming physical humans on this time-space reality. There was a process, right? It moved through densities and it continued to expand. And there are densities beyond us as well. So the physical plane, different dimensions, parallel universes, different densities, all of those were a process. It didn't just happen like that. But again, the original consciousness didn't have any concept of time because we created it. So therefore, whether it happened 2 seconds ago, we don't know, right? Because our concept of time is skewed based on this globe, this reality, because even time on different planets is different, right? So it's skewed. So we can never know for certain when the origin started expanding. Okay, so why are there infinite possibilities then? It's because the first ever question was, who could I be? And how could you possibly answer that without exploring every single possibility, every single version of who you could be? So you can come back to yourself and declare, now I know who I am and now I know who I could be, right? So you need to go out into infinity just to come back to yourself to be like, now I know who I could be. Now I know who I am. And let me make it clear, we think of possibilities from the human limited mind, often as better versions of ourselves, which is what I described earlier. But infinite possibilities includes other dimensions, parallel universes, other densities, other beings, aliens. Hello, if we can conceive it, it's a possibility, therefore it's a probability. Therefore it exists out into infinite possibilities. Other experiences, other versions of time-space, right? Like they've said that they've discovered basically a black hole that reverses time-space. So instead of going forward, as in we're getting older, it reverses time. Why wouldn't that be possible in infinite possibilities? Of course it would. And even things that we couldn't possibly conceive. We are not all-knowing as limited human bodies. We are confined to our perception of reality. So there are things that we couldn't even possibly conceive that exist as possibilities out in the infinite possibilities, right? Think of the Planet of the Apes. Why wouldn't that be a possibility? Why wouldn't that be a potential timeline? Of course it would be. We live in infinite possibilities, yeah? Because the one consciousness, one God wanted to know who it could be. It could be anyone and anything, any experience. Now, in our minds, we've always seen it as a ring of circles, essentially, that we're on this plane and then we ascend to this plane, then we ascend to this plane, then we ascend to this plane. And that's how basically ascension works, right? We've gone from third density to fourth density to fifth density, or third dimension to fourth dimension, and so on and so on and so on until we become one with God. Like an ascension plane of levels, right? I'm going up the levels in a game. But it's more likely to be a flower. Now, let me explain this to you. There are infinite flowers that created their own networks. Think of multi-level marketing, right? You have the big boss, the CEO, the company, all right? Let's call him God, okay? And then God created, let's say, 3 possibilities. And then from that, each of those created their 3 possibilities. And of that, they created their 3 possibilities. Now I'm saying 3, but I mean infinity, right? So although we are one cluster and we are continuing to expand and conceive things, there's another cluster somewhere else that's created a complete different version of reality, okay? To be something that looks completely different. It could literally be water as energy that moves and becomes something, okay? We cannot explain it based on our limited mind. And the way he described it on this particular planet is they were all essentially neurons and connected to the one hive mind. And they weren't living as, let's say, humans. They were living to basically create intelligence of the planet itself. And part of their role was to remember everything, okay? All other dimensions. Not to try and escape their own dimension. It wasn't about ascension for them. It was using that information to go within, to embody and embrace their current dimensional reality. And that's another thing I notice about humans. We're always wanting to ascend into some other place, time, space, reality. And we neglect the fact that we chose to be here and now. Okay, we need to remember why we wanted to be human. How amazing is it that God wanted to know itself as an ocean, wanted to know itself as aliens, wanted to know itself as planets, wanted to know itself as fire, and also wanted to know itself as you. Like, so although I've talked to you about basically the depth of understanding infinite possibilities, if you were to apply it to your life simply as in using the law of attraction, we can align ourselves with any of those infinite possibilities if you want to. Through attention and intention, amplified emotions, all those examples I gave you, super powerful. Bring them into your experience. I hope that simplified the understanding of God, how we created this time-space reality, how we're going to continue to expand into infinity so that the one unity, God consciousness understands who it could be, who it is, who the I am is. Okay, I love you so much. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like and share this if you love it. And if you would like more upbeat positivity, I have a free Positivity Rampage. Links are in the description box below. I love you so much. Let me know what you want to hear more of. I love you. Peace.